Hi, Deb.
That's my name. Don't wear that.
Anna Summer? Now you have another name?
She's just playing.
Okay, fine. I'll change it. No, I don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah.
Not an incarnation.
Okay.
No, wait,
You can sing.
Hi, Karen.
when Donna Summer got really ill, she was in Naples, Florida, and that's where Eileen works as a nurse down there.
Oh.
The girl that usually joins here, Eileen.
Okay.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
Maybe I should change it back.
All right. So, any quick announcements or anything like that?
Stephen, I was saying when you left, I was trying to say that Claudia did a great job last week, in your absence.
She did. I got to see it, and oh my God, I was laughing so much. You guys were having so much fun.
We did.
And it was like just complete. It was like you guys were in sync with each other, and it was just like beautiful. So thank you.
It was like,
But you were missed. You were being
we
missed.
you.
it was just like when the real teacher's off of school, and the substitutes in there, all the kids
Yeah.
were playing.
Yeah. Everybody was like online, 1 o'clock, they want
We did play. We did. We had a good time.
Guys, I could tell. I mean, you guys were having such a great time. It's like, oh my God. And let me tell you something. People are really inspired by what they see. And I'm sorry that I really don't get a chance to really share these things with you guys. I get information from people saying, hey, this is such a great group. I'm so glad I found you guys. That's what I was looking for. And so again, that is all of you. So, and I want to make sure that I start sharing these things with you, because I get these messages and comments and emails from people every week. So that's the difference, you guys. So I just wanted you to know.
So we can keep having fun. Right?
Absolutely. Keep having fun.
And we do. We love to have fun, and we love each other. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody in this group loves each other. We do.
Yeah.
It definitely shows. So, Mother, if you don't mind, Claudia, if you don't mind muting everyone else, including myself, and allow the Reverend Sheila Control to start us in minutes. And we can get this party started.
Absolutely. My favorite thing to do.
I'll mute myself.
Okay.
All right. So my brothers and sisters, let us settle into this space called beingness. And allow the breath to bring us gently, easily, and effortlessly to the portal where we meet and greet the Christ of our being. And as we relax into the awareness of who we are and whose we are, let us say within our mind, I am the Christ. And again, and once more. And from this awareness of our Christhood and the purpose that stands before us in awakening the Christ within all humanity, everyone and everywhere, as a result of our own awareness of who we are. And we allow the gratitude to begin to flow throughout our entire body and throughout our being. For first, the recognition of who we are. And second, the purpose that stands before us. And the powerful healing that flows through us, touching the minds, hearts, and spirits of every living being. Because we have awakened to the awareness that we are the Christ. And from that, it is possible to awaken it in everyone else. What a mission. To bring the Christ forward in this world in a substantial and valuable way. That all may awaken to this realization and begin to live in this world in a way that returns us to the way we were with God before the world was. One. And only one. Where there is no pointing the fingers toward others, diminishing their value, weakening their gifts, and holding an unwillingness to see that there is only one of us. So we take this realization into our core. We say yes to it. We embrace it. We feel it. And we allow ourselves to hold the space for the arrival at this place for every brother and sister everywhere. And so let us spend a few moments holding the space for the arrival of all who recognize and hear the Christ call and come home again in the silence. Welcome home, beloveds. We see you, we feel you, we hear you. You need no longer struggle. You need no longer fight. You need no longer fear. For you are home in the heart of God, in your true Christ nature. And we recognize you. Put down your weapons. Let go of your fears and rest in the knowing that you are safe here. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you and in each other. And so it is. Amen.
And while we maintain this sacred space, let us begin our opening prayer. Be truly helpful.
I'm here to be truly helpful.
I am here to represent him.
I'm here to represent him.
I'm here to represent God who sent me.
I do not have to worry about what to say.
I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do.
For he who sent me will direct me.
For God who sent me will direct me.
I'm willing to be wherever he wishes.
I am willing to be wherever God wishes.
He with me.
Knowing God goes there with me.
I will be healed.
I will be healed.
As I let him teach me.
As I let God teach me to heal.
And so it is.
So it is.
Amen.
Amen and amen.
All right. Okay. So we one second. All right. So we are on the same chapter, chapter 11, out of the ego. And let's see, I'm trying to find, I don't have my place. Hold on one second. Part 5 or 6, depending on what version that you actually have. And that is, let's see.
Page 205.
Right, the dynamics of the ego, and we, looks like you guys went all the way up to paragraph 12. Am I correct?
13, you said.
I mean 13, yeah. But you finished paragraph 12, so we're starting on paragraph 13.
Yes.
All right, so I believe Bill was the first one on, so Bill, take us away.
The ego analyzes, the Holy Spirit accepts. The appreciation of wholeness comes only through acceptance. For to analyze means to break down or to separate out. The attempt to understand totality by breaking it down is clearly the characteristically contradictory approach of the ego to everything. The ego believes that power, understanding, and truth lie in separation, and to establish this belief, it must attack. Unaware that the belief cannot be established, and obsessed with the conviction that separation is salvation, ego attacks everything it perceives by breaking it into small, disconnected parts without meaningful relationships and therefore without meaning. The ego will always substitute chaos for meaning, for if separation is salvation, harmony is threat.
All right. So, Bill, what's your take on it?
Thanks for giving me that really easy one. That's a lot there, you know. That's one of those sentences I kind of memorized early on in my course time. You know, the ego analyzes, the Holy Spirit accepts. And I've sat with that. I still sit with that one sometimes, wondering what's that mean to me? You know, what does that look like? And before I know it, I'm analyzing what it says, you know, and it reminds me of it's something I've been looking at a lot lately, and something that Helen Schuckman said. You know, she said about A Course in, she was described, you know, and about A Course in Miracles, she said, "I know it's true, I just don't believe it." And there's so much in the Course that is so easy to understand. But because, you know, it says things like all things work together for good, there's no exceptions, you know, except in the ego's judgment. A lot of things that when I really accept these things that are in this book, and it changes the whole world that I live in. Because my understanding of what was real and true is totally different from what Course in Miracles is saying, you know. And I still do, I'm sure, spent a lot of time trying to analyze, what is this saying? What does this mean? You know, and you know, I like the word. It's in here a couple times in this. That word belief. You know, and I just did lesson 132 today. It's I loosed the world from all I think it was. And the first sentence in that lesson is, what can keep the world in chains but your beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, lately I was talking to Sheila a little bit about it before. You know, I've really been looking at that beliefs, you know, and discovering beliefs I had that that I didn't know I had, I'll give you an example. I participated in a group with a guy where we deal with beliefs, you know, and I wrote him in a little question, and I said, you know, I know the Course says that everything works for our good, and there's no mistakes, and everything is for me. And I said, I believe that, but I must have another belief to the contrary, that because I still worry about the future sometimes. And he said, it's not that you have another kind of belief to the contrary. He says, you just don't believe that all things work, everything is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it hit it right on the head, because I thought I did, but if I truly did, it would be impossible to have to worry about the future or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, before I get too far away from, but that to me, that's the whole course it says it's a course in mind training, and it's trying to get me to believe what it's saying. And I've said a lot of things, like in the Course, I've analyzed it a lot. Like it can't really mean that, and it does. And I think that when I accept the things that it says, my whole life changes, you know. But what in this paragraph where it says, you know, the attempt to understand totality by breaking it down. Like, I've heard a lot of times in course groups, you know, when we say, well, how did the separation start? Well, the Course says it never started. You just think that everything is separate. Like right here, right now, there's not 10,000 things going on. There's one thing. It's God in expression in all different ways, and we perceive. totality, and we try to understand it and analyze it by looking at all these different parts, like it says there, trying to understand totality. And, you could, I always love the one thing I learned in Unity years ago, there's one power and one presence in all the universe and in my life, God, the good, the omnipotent, and that very simple thing, there's only one thing going on here. There's not good and evil and all, it's all God in expression. And the mind, the ego tries to figure that out, just can't get it. It can't, because it's bigger than it can imagine, or something, but somehow I can get the experience of that, through practicing the forgiveness that the Course talks about and everything. And I feel like I went off a little bit out of a tangent on that one there, but I love that. That's such a powerful statement there about the analyzing. And when I take a look at how much time I try to spend analyzing, understanding totality, like it says, by all the little things, it's like a circular process. It never comes to an end, but doesn't always have to be that way. There's a better way, that's all. That's about it. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. Going out to the group. Any additional insights or interpretations or ideas that come to you? I'm going to comment myself in a little bit, but I'd like to hear, what everyone thinks of that. Yes, Debbie.
Well, that paragraph that says the ego is obsessed with the conviction that separation is salvation, and therefore attacks everything it perceives by breaking it into small, disconnected parts without meaningful relationships. We are seeing that right now. And there are places within the consciousness that believe that if they stay separate, they'll be okay. They'll be fine. They'll be good. But they're breaking everything apart by thinking that way. And the relationships, because they're in that disconnected state, they can't connect with everybody else and feel what we're feeling, So I'm thinking just the collective ego, not particularly people, just that thought of separation that's keeping people at a distance right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else? Thank you, Debbie. No other insights?
I do. Oh, never mind.
I'm sorry. Who was trying to talk? Mom?
Yeah,
Mom,
I was,
video,
but two of us were, huh?
Your video is off too, but some. I mean, if you want to leave your video off, you can, but I was just letting you know that it's off.
Oh, okay.
Can
you see me?
Not yet. You just got to have to put your screen, just hit your screen, and then hit the video thing.
I just did that.
Okay. Sorry. Still not coming on.
Well, okay, because I see me right there.
All right. Yeah, as a picture. Yeah, go ahead and say what you were about to say.
What I was going to say after Bill was finished was that sometimes before we reach belief, we have to simply stand in trust. And as we trust, we open ourselves to allow that which we are wanting to believe to unfold, unveil itself and unfold in us and through us as we move through life and we begin to see how this new awareness is working in our lives. And as we see that, in time, we go into the level of belief.
Absolutely. So it's like that game that you would play. You would have your arms open and you kind of fall back, and you were afraid that somebody wasn't going to catch you. I don't really know what the name of that game was, but it was like a faith game. You know, you would fall. I'm like, okay, oh, you know, and so that's almost kind of how it is. As you get to see the evidence of spirit constantly being in your life, constantly supporting you, constantly, then you begin to trust in your present circumstance.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're saying. Now, who else was wanting to talk? Had something to say?
I was going to say something. Can I?
Yes, I'm listening, Zibby, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Debbie, Deb, for bringing that up, you know, the collective ego thing that is going on right now. And I just wanted to bring number 6 from this section that says the ego will always substitute chaos for meaning. For if separation is salvation, harmony is threat. Yeah. And I like the part that deals with substitution of chaos for meaning. And since we're seeing how chaos is actually showing up, you know, in our world, at least in our part of the world, and I suppose it's not being willing to see the meaning, which here to me is our oneness. Now, when you don't want to see the truth about our oneness, then you can be, you can be put in a situation where you think chaos will work or chaos is real, somehow will be conducive to something. That's all I just wanted to mention. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So, may I comment?
Of course. Yes, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you. When Ziba was talking, and also Deb, really all of you, the truth will set you free. And I know this isn't the right way to say it, but first it's going to make you angry. So that was one thing. And then the other thing, when I first started 20 years ago, when I started studying the course, my teacher, my mentor, said to me, because I was trying to analyze everything, said, nope, just stop trying to understand this. Just let it be. And when I'm able to just breathe and say, I don't know what that said, let me just, let me chill. Somehow it becomes clearer to me. Somehow, I guess that's the Holy Spirit. So, but yeah, Deb, yeah, and worldwide, not just in our country. And Sheila, I'm beginning to believe you. I'm to believe that, because it's happening too fast. There's a storm in the Gulf. What? Does Mother Nature not know that we already have enough to deal with? And it's okay. That's right. I'm getting your attention. you know, fix this. It reminds me, and I don't know the Bible that well, Reverend Sheila and other Bible scholars, the 7 plagues. Because the other day I started counting. Wait a minute. 1, 2, and I think to 6 if you count the monster bug the monster insect that's coming.
Yes.
And, all right, hurry up 7 so we can get this over with. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think we are living out a lot of those things that were talked about in the Bible. Now we're getting to see the manifestation of the metaphysical process of all of that was said in the Bible. But metaphysically, it is now coming into our lives and we are living it. You are absolutely right.
All right.
Just to follow up on that, and you see people changing their minds.
Yes.
It's happening in my groups, in my, somebody will say something or in the news, and somebody will say, because we've been saying, why doesn't somebody stand up and say something? No, because you haven't had enough plagues yet. So enough. Okay.
All right. So, anybody else? Well, yes. Sandy and Bill, and just kind of resonating with everyone's saying, Zeba and Debbie. What I believe we're being called to do is begin to relinquish the intellectual aspect of everything. And like Bill was talking about, as far as analyzing and I believe you were talking about kind of analyzing and things like that, and it gets kind of confusing. And I believe we're being called to relinquish that dependency that we have on the intellectual mind, because that's the little mind, you guys. That, believe it or not, that's the little mind. And that is the domain of the ego. The ego uses the intellectual mind primarily. And it can never encompass or grasp spiritual mind that accepts all. That does not compute with intellectual mind as far as accepting all. That does not compute. Okay, what is he talking about? What is she talking about? Accept. No, it needs to be this way. And that's all there is to it. It needs to be like this, because if it's like this, and see, because intellectual mind has this whole if then that or else and things like that, has this whole logical consistency to it. And spiritual mind is not confined to logic.
It's not.
It's not confined to that. It's bigger than that. It's the big mind. It's the mind that has every intent in mind of all of the children in this world. It's the mind that knows the perfect way for events to transpire in order to bring an entire population and move them forward in consciousness. Now, the population is not going to feel good while we're being called by spirit to move forward. Okay, that's bottom line. Chaos is not something that operates outside the realm of God. Okay, chaos, it serves its own role in stimulating our a society to move upwards in our vibration of being and thinking and stuff like that, and move us upwards in consciousness. And that's all that chaos really does, essentially. And so we're experiencing a lot of chaos. And so on one hand, we could look at it like, what, all this chaos, what is going on? But on another hand, because all I have to do, again, we were talking about like knowing that we have that chair is sitting back there. Are you sure there's a chair there? I don't know. I don't know if there's gonna be a chair. And I believe Bill was talking about that. It's like, you really don't believe it, but there's a chair back there. There's really a chair that's gonna support you. There's a chair. Yes, there's a chair. okay? And so we're constantly trying to learn that there's a chair. Yes, there's a chair that's supporting this whole society and moving us forward. And we wonder if there's a chair when we experience all this chaos and stuff like that. But even that chaos is part of that chair. It's part of the chair. It's part of the chair that's going to bring us forward. You know, nothing operates outside of God. There's nothing that operates outside of God. Nothing. Not chaos, not the ego, not collective consciousness. Nothing operates outside, independent of the realm of God. So that means that everything that we're experiencing, the chaos and everything else, is part of God, which means that it is part of our highest good, because there's no separation. So, all right, I'll stop my soapbox.
Can I say something?
You sure can.
Two things. Chaos always precedes order.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And think about, you talking about the mind. It's said in many places in scriptural literature, be it in, our scriptures or others, let the mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. Hmm. Actually, let the mind be in us that was in the Christ. The Christ is our true nature. All of us are the Christ. And so what we're meant to do is that mind, that Christ mind, totally trust in everything that occurs, because our existence is orderly. There's an order, there's a flow to it. If you look at the order of the creation of the universe, there is an order in everything. So when something starts, it even if it's painful and challenging, it does not mean that thing is just going to stay that way and that's it, or go backwards or whatever. But it has to follow the path of evolution. And so we know that something is evolving, and all we have to do is trust, and we will move forward to a place of belief and realization. Yeah.
And there's no cutting it, brothers and sisters. There's no shortcutting it in our individual journeys. So if there's no shortcutting it in our individual journeys, as far as, like, for example, bypassing our emotions and stuff like that, there's no bypass of our emotions. If we don't experience our emotions and experience whatever we experience and then learn from it and then grow from it and heal, we don't grow, period. So there's no bypassing the emotions like, okay, I just don't want to feel the emotion. Now, I was one of those people. I just didn't want to feel it because it was just too much for me. And I believe Bill said he was like that too. But there's no bypassing. You have to go through it. So that means if you have to go through it as an individual, guess what? We have to go through it as a society, as a people. We have to go through it. And right now we're going through it. We're going through the growing pains. That's just all there is to it. These are growing pains. Everything that you see happening in the world, all of the anger and the strife and the chaos and all these different things, people using rubber bullets on peaceful protesters and all this other stuff, tear gas, all of that is just part of the growth. That's all it is, just part of the, that's it. So, yes.
I'd like to say one more thing, and I'm studying I can't say it, existentialism. And Nietzsche wrote this book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I don't know if anybody knows that book, where he gives the camel metaphor, and the camel metaphor is that the camel becomes educated. And when the camel becomes educated, he transforms into a lion. And when the lion gets angry, the lion encounters a dragon and has to slay the dragon. And after the dragon is slain, what is reborn is this innocent child who has no, now I'm putting things in there, has no judgment, no prior knowledge, just has to grow and learn. And so we may well be slaying the dragon, whatever the dragon is now, so that we could all be reborn or born, whatever term you'd like to, with a clean slate. I just studied, I just did this part of the lesson today. And that's what I came up with. Oh my goodness, that's what we're, after I counted the 6 plagues, I just studied this. And that's what I think is happening. We are individuating, as Carl Jung said. We're individuating, we're not following the herd anymore, but we kind of want to, and everybody else wants us to follow the herd, and anyway, enough. Thank you.
Steve, what you were saying about what you were saying, for me, like I like to keep it like my mind training, and the course, and what's going on in the world has given me a great opportunity to say to myself, do I really see everyone as sinless? Mm-hmm. What the course says, do I see anyone as guilty? Because if I do, ideas leave not their source. If I see anybody as guilty, you got to be honest with yourself here. It's radical, and if I do, and that guilt, I believe I am guilty.
Yes.
And I won't admit it. And I need something out there to hurl my guilt over and say, they're the guilty one, because look at me, I'm innocent. And to me, that's where the rubber hits the road with A Course in Miracles, and I've been doing this for a while, but I'll tell you, it is, that's something you don't have to analyze. It talks about it over and over again in the course, and I found out, not just recently, but I really thought there were guilty people in the world, and well, that one should know better. You name it. It could be anybody or anything. I didn't realize that it was my guilt that I felt that is that's the only reason that I am able to see and think someone else is guilty, because it's in me. Absolutely. And when I got honest, like it leads you. Your mind heals. You realize innocence, and when I can look out, and this is like the proven ground. What we're doing today, mm-hmm. But it's in anything. It doesn't have to be big world events. Every single day, we're judging guilt, and the course says there's one thing it teaches: the Son of God is guiltless. Yes. Sinlessness is guaranteed by God. And that takes that to really get there, not just in words, but to actually experience it that way. It takes a miracle. That's why it's called A Course in Miracles, because it's trying to heal our mind. I can't have the peace of God, the love of God, if I think anybody else is guilty and not the same, and it's been really, really real. But I tell you, all we have to do is be willing, like the Course says, to see my brother sinless, and Holy Spirit will do the rest.
Absolutely.
Heal us.
Well, be willing to be willing.
To be willing, to be willing, to be willing.
This is Moj. I just want to say I came across this section in the book, in the Song of Prayer, and the last sentence in the paragraph says, "Forgive them for your sins, and you will be forgiven indeed."
Absolutely, absolutely.
So even when we think they need to be forgiven, we're forgiving them for our sins, for seeing a sin in them.
Yeah,
that's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe Debbie had something to say too. I'm sorry, Debbie, because a couple of people were talking. You sure, Debbie? Are you good? Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else about this paragraph? Seems like we were just all over that paragraph. I don't know if there's anything else on that paragraph. That's the condition group that I know about. That's the voracious group that I know about. You know, sometimes like, you know, like our last sessions, I was like, y'all sure y'all don't want some more of this? And, you know, people were like, no. And I was like, well, what's going on? But that's the voracious group I know. You know, y'all just all over paragraph 13, just eating it up. That thing is some bones. That is just that poor bird that's on that plate. Oh my goodness. So let's see, who is next? I know Claudia and Zeba and I believe Deb were.
Eva was already here when I.
Zeba was. Zeba, do you mind reading?
Okay.
All right.
The ego's interpretations of the laws of perception are and would have to be the exact opposite of the Holy Spirit's. The ego focuses on error and overlooks truth. It makes real every mistake it perceives and with characteristically circular reasoning concludes that because of the mistake, consistent truth must be meaningless. The next step then is obvious. If consistent truth is meaningless, inconsistency must be true. Holding error clearly in mind and protecting what it has made real, the ego proceeds to the next step in its thought system. Error is real and truth is error.
Okay. All right. That's a lot to chew on. So what do you think about that, Zeba?
Okay, so what I think is so the ego has its own interpretations of the laws of perception, and it's different and opposite to that of the Holy Spirit. And so what the ego does, the ego focuses on error and overlooks truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can, when I look back into my life experiences, I see that I did have always this inclination to see the error in everybody's behavior, like myself included, you know, just focusing on the wrongdoing, the error, the mistake, and not really seeing the good and the right, you know, and the acceptable, whatever. I mean, it's hard to the truth. I was not looking at the truth because all my attention was on the wrongdoing. What is wrong? What's the mistake here? What is to be corrected? And, you know, it really took me a lot of negative experiences to become aware that something was wrong with the way I was seeing things, seeing, you know, myself and others. And so when I came to the course of A Course in Miracles, that's when I truly understood that it was this error finding approach, this error seeing approach that I had that was really bringing all the negative experiences into my life, because what you think is going to show up in your life experience. So what you think will become your life, actually, because we're creative and we create our lives. So when we focus on error, we also bring that kind of life experiences, those kind of life experiences into our into manifestation in our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I let the rest of it for the whole group to discuss.
You gonna leave the rest for the group that you on. Okay, you know, you took a little chomp out of it. That's fine. That's great. But thank you so much, Ziba.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, going out to the group. What do you guys think?
Well, for me, the truth of this is when you shift when I shift my perception, it is a miracle. And so, I mean, there have been many times that I've, thought about things that were happening and just shifted. And it only takes, I'm going to say half an inch, not even that much, takes a tiny little bit to shift your perception. And oh my goodness, the whole world looks different. So, that's how you know it was the ego. It was you that was perceiving things in an inconsistent way. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You had something, Bill?
Real quick, that's so profound there, at the end where it says the ego, it's the next step in its thought system. Error is real and truth is error. Like if I like to use our president. He's been my greatest teacher for a few years now,
Mine too. Mine too.
Me too.
I think I've grown more the last 3 years. I like to than and so the truth, if I want to listen to what the Course says, that's an innocent child of God.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say, no, that's a really bad person who's doing a lot of bad in the world, and he's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And so the truth is error, and error is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I want to believe my judgments.
Mm-hmm.
I want somebody to be guilty and somebody to be responsible for my loss of peace.
Exactly.
I'm upset, and it's not my fault. He did it.
Exactly.
It's just different over there. And I don't want to look at my mind and where my mind needs to be healed, because that's why I'm upset. I have forgotten who I am.
Exactly.
That's the only way I can forget who that is over there. And that's the same. That's another aspect of what I am. And trust me, I didn't come to this overnight. But you know what? I've really developed a great amount of peace with it all. And I mean that sincerely when I say my greatest teacher. I'd say greatest, but a huge teacher teaching for me, because I swore I found an exception and found a guilty one. But no, it of course says guilt isn't even real.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we made up. It's not even a thing. And that's another, like we think it's real. It's an error, it's a mistake. Like everything is unfolding perfectly. Nothing is going wrong. You know, the court, I was going to read it, but I lost it now. It says, it takes great learning to realize that all events, circumstances, and everything that happens is for your good.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. However, it's easy to look at the world and say, well, there's something's going wrong here.
Exactly.
And it's that one there. And I'm upset, and I'm always blaming somebody else, and without looking at my mind. You know, like the court, this is talking about me. It's not talking about saying, hey, yeah, look at that. This is talking about them guys over there. You know what I mean? And all this, you know, and it's really been blowing my mind for a while now that I just appreciate the genius behind what this book is saying. You know, more
absolutely.
The deeper I get into it, you know, there, like lately when I read in the morning, it just brings me to tears, but real tears of just gratitude or the love or just how, you know, just awestruck with it all. You know, it's because it promises we can have the peace of God no matter what. You know, and if I don't have the peace of God, the first thing I want to do is blame somebody else, find somebody guilty out there. No, it's because I got guilt in me, and I've forgotten who I am. It's not somebody else's thing. But anyway.
And that's thank you, Bill. We're about to go to break, but I just wanted to say something really quick. That's a difficult one for some people to swallow. That there's really nothing outside of you. That it's really, you know, how you're responding to it is just basically, you know, something that's within you. You know, for the most part, I don't really say that to other people so much because a lot of people want to live in the dream. So what I will do to reach them is I'll just go into the dream with them and describe it in another way. But if I'm talking about myself, then yeah, I don't mind talking in terms like what you just now said, as far as saying like, hey, you know, I realize that it's me. You know, but you know, it's a different thing. You know, if somebody's going through something and they're experiencing a certain amount of upsetness or being upset, to tell them that it's something that's within them. So I found that people generally tend to close themselves off at that point, you know, because they're not ready to come to that realization. That is a deep course truth, and that's more of it, and one of those higher level course truths. And so what I like to do is I kind of go into the dream sometimes, and you know, where people are feeling their things and maybe wanting to point the fingers and things like that and stuff like that, and then kind of help effectuate healing on that level. But absolutely, anything that you're actually experiencing, it's originating within you. You know, it's 5-10% the event that happens, and 90% how we interpret the event. You know. So you got two people that can go through the exact same thing, and one has an experience of bliss while the other has an experience of hell. So what's the difference? The difference is the thinking, like we're talking about. That's the difference. The difference is the thought process that's going on in those two different people. That's the only difference, and how they're interpreting these events that just not happened. So with that in mind, we are going to take a break. 8-minute break, restroom break, coffee break, water break, snack break, whatever kind of break you want to call it. So we're going to be back in 8 minutes.
Claudia, for Stephen, the chat is off. Do you mean for it to be off?
Okay, so we are coming back. All right. Hold on, Ma. Hold on. I gotta unmute you. Hold on.
Stephen, I was cracking up when you were just talking about that, you know, of going to different levels of the course, because I was thinking to myself, well, I think that's probably why my course groups don't last very long.
That's funny. That's yep. So, all right. So let's. We're still talking about paragraph 14. So, any additional comments? Look like you want to say something, Ma. That's why I had you unmuted. Sometimes there's an echo that we hear.
I was singing. I'm sorry. I was singing and dancing.
All right. Okay. All right.
I would like to say something with regards to this line. Okay, so number 3 says it makes real every mistake it perceives, and with characteristically circular reasoning concludes that because of the mistake, consistent truth must be meaningless. I think this is really important because it shows how the ego makes the unreal real, the error real, and the truth unreal. So first it says, okay, because there are mistakes that have been made, then that means that truth is not consistent. So we don't have a consistent truth because sometimes mistakes happen. Okay. And then from there, it goes to, okay, so if the truth is not consistent, then the truth is not truth. So it just rejects it altogether. There's no truth because it's not consistent. And then it makes the unreal, the error, the mistake real. So it's all, which is not really true. The mistake is just a mistake and it's not the truth. But then the ego makes it real. So it just reverses the whole story, the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Or it even, if it does make any acknowledgement of truth, then it'll acknowledge the truth in the absolute by saying, well, that's, maybe in the realm of God, where it has God being outside and not in the human experience. Maybe in the realm of God, it's like that. So it may make certain, it may make certain allocations or acknowledgments as far as saying, well, in the realm of God, then maybe it's true. But here in the world and stuff, it's this or it's that. So it will definitely make distinctions in order to support its original idea of error. Absolutely. So, thank you, Ziba.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Real quickly, I was thinking that, the truth being inconsistent and being meaningless, I like to think like, in my experience of what this actually looks like and pans out like, and it's been so powerful for me. I mean, so many years ago, I did, started the course, and lesson 5 says, I'm never upset for the reason I think. Never. And I don't know how many times since then I've said to myself, I am upset because,
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a teacher of mine says, it's the second you say I'm upset because you name why, that's the ego right there coming in to defend itself. So you don't see the real reason for your upset.
Exactly. Creating story.
That's so simple to follow. And I've known that, and I've read it, and I said I believed it, but I still find myself doing it for years. I'm upset because, and you know, I mentioned one of my best teacher, but you know, blaming, and that's, but that's truth. That we are never upset because for the reason we think. That's truth, and that's consistent with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego likes to argue with that, you know, like, oh, I found the exception this time. Mm-hmm. This is really a real reason to be upset, and that's why. Mm-hmm. I don't want to look within my mind for the real reason. And that just keeps the circular, like it says, the circular thing going. The mind will never heal.
Absolutely.
Well, it will eventually, but it'll take a long time.
So we were talking also about again, initially about analyzing things. And I believe, Bill, you were also talking about focusing on the past. And I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. See, when we focus on the past, or when we have assumptions, and this is why acceptance is so important, brothers and sisters. This is why this is key. Acceptance is so important, to accept people as they are, where they are, in spite of whether you believe what they're saying or not, in spite of whether you believe their truth. You don't have to believe their truth. Just understand that it is still a truth to them, and honor it and embrace it as their truth, because their truth is still a part of them. It's a part of them. And to attempt to ascribe your own truths onto someone else, you know, that's like malpractice, like a doctor or a metaphysician that malpractices. You know, they don't need your truth to be ascribed. They don't need you to tell them a better way to live, or they don't need you to ascribe whatever it is that you believe on them. What you believe is perfect for you. And what they believe right now is perfect for them. And even if they're coming from a place of error, I want you to understand that it is okay. It is still okay. All right? Because that error has still, they have a perfect curriculum for them. Okay? There's a perfect curriculum that they're going to go through based on it. And it's not punishing type of curriculum. It's just a curriculum. You know, that's all it is. It's just a curriculum. Let's just take away the energy from it and everything, as far as, well, the reason why you're experiencing all this stuff is because you've been, you know, this bad thoughts and stuff. No. They just got their own curriculum. You know, because if you ascribe that type of interpretation to them, it's the same thing the Course is talking about. You're just ascribing that same interpretation to yourself. Wherever you put your brother or sister in consciousness is where you put yourself. Is where you put yourself. Now, I know that's kind of difficult, you know? So that's why, you know, when I see people, you know, doing things and I don't necessarily understand it, I see a lot of things I don't understand. But I don't get, you know, as much of a charge anymore, just because I'm just like, hey, I don't know what's going on. This might be, you know, if I put an interpretation to it, this is just, you know, something, you know, about me anyway. It's just about me. That's all it is to it. If I'm getting upset, I must be getting upset for a reason. That means there's something that's unresolved, unhealed, or something like that. I don't really know what it is, but whatever it is, this teacher of mine, this divine angelic teacher of mine, is now bringing it to the forefront of my consciousness. I don't know what it is, but this divine teacher, and that's all they are, as a divine teacher, they are bringing it to my consciousness now. Because I'm upset. I'm upset. Now, why I'm upset, I need to look within and see why I'm upset. They don't have anything to do with it. They don't have anything to do with it. Nothing. Not at all. They're not making you upset. People don't have control. They don't have a remote control or whatever where they can just make you get upset or whatever. Okay, I think I'm going to make you happy now. And then pushing a button on her. No, it doesn't work that way. So if people going through their lives doing what they want to do, which is their God-given right, is making you upset, think about it. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So are we done with paragraph 14, or do we want to talk a little bit more about it? Everybody's good?
I want to just ask, kind of put a question in here. As far as being upset, I appreciated what Bill was saying, that, you know, as soon as we say I'm upset because of this reason, the ego is stepping in. And but in reality, in real life, you know, being in relationships, and, you know, we're not living in a cave. We are, you know, interacting with people, either with society or with, you know, people that are close with us, as far as, you know, our children, parents, and other halves. And so in real life, when you do have this value system of, you believe in certain things, and when somebody who's very close with you kind of goes against that towards you, it's a little bit it's a little bit tougher to have that feeling of, oh, you know, they can do whatever they want to do. It's somebody else doing that, and it's none of my business. It is kind of like, because it's you know, it is your core beliefs, or also it's your core people. And so it's like, in reality, how do you suggest, I mean, it could be that, oh, you know, they're doing their own thing, and it could be that, you know, you could go there, but then it also takes away so much from the other parts of the relationship. Then you become more that detached, even on good parts of the relationship. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, you become neutral in everything.
I know exactly what you mean, Moj. You don't have to agree with it, and I believe my mother talked about that one. Like, I don't know, maybe it's about a month ago, or whatever. You don't have to agree with the behavior. You know, you can, you know, clearly say I disagree with the behavior. But any amount of upsetness that you experience as a result of the behavior, that's kind of still internal. And yes, you know, we have, like, you know, certain belief systems and certain things that we decide to that we want to subscribe to, and again, that's just that's on a personal level, as far as what we choose to subscribe to, as far as, you know, values that we choose to subscribe to and stuff like that. That's still all on a personal level. You don't have to agree with what somebody does. There's plenty of stuff that happens I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm not going to either, and I'm not going to say that whatever they're doing is making me upset, because they're not making me do anything. I'm upset because, you know, there's something that I'm observing that is triggering something that's within me. That's all I'm saying. It's not to point any fingers at anybody. It's not to say we all experience this. The whole deal is when we attach a story to it, any type of story whatsoever, even if, you know, you say, oh, because this person did this, or because this person did it, because that person stole a candy bar from the, you know, that really just got me angry. He just ran out the store and stuff like that. You don't have to agree with it, but at the same time, if you're truly getting upset about it, then you might want to look within a little bit, just a little bit. So,
you know, it helped me a lot when I stopped saying, why is this happening to me? And I asked Spirit, what is this for? You know, what is this here? You know, and to realizing there's a gift here that I'm being offered, rather than, you know, because that's really the truth. And when I made that shift, at least tried to do it, everything changed about it, because I started to be able to see what this is trying to help me to see.
Absolutely. And, you know, what I say, as I said, what am I supposed to learn here, Holy Spirit? You know, when I'm caught, when I'm confused and stuff like that, because I'm going to tell you, I get confused, guys. I hope that you guys don't sit up here and think that, you know, I don't get confused or I don't, you know, go into the dream or anything like that. Not at all. You know, when I do get confused, however, I do know now through habit, through reading course, that there more than likely is something that I'm not perceiving. That's what all this time with the course, it has really taught me to be able to, you know, right then and there ascertain there's something that I'm just not perceiving right now, because right now I'm perceiving this wall, I'm perceiving all of this based on my assumptions and past learnings and things like that. But there's something outside of my assumptions because I'm not getting it, I'm not understanding it, I'm confused, Holy Spirit. What is the, you know, what am I supposed to learn here? Tell me what I'm supposed to learn here. I might be in the shower and I'm talking, you know, talking to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, what am I supposed to learn with the situation? This is going on and that's going on and da, 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 da. What am I supposed to learn here? You know? So, or what is this for? Things like that. Because there's something happening that's not yet in your conscious awareness. And so when you have your mind open to something, you know, that's outside of your conscious awareness, you're not just taking everything at face value, everything that your assumptions tell you, because your assumptions will create huge blind spots in the way that you see. They will. They will create huge blind spots. If you rely solely on your assumptions, that's what it means by you're blind. Okay? If you just rely on those assumptions, you blind yourself. Okay? Because your assumptions are like little programs based on past learnings. You have all these little assumptions and they're just populating your head. And they're shortcut learning things because you learn these assumptions. You learn these ways that, I'll create this is a little rule and I'll create that. This is another little rule. And all these little rules start to populate your mind and they're called assumptions. But the thing about assumptions, if you totally depend on them, they cut off information that's coming to you in the present, okay? Because everything that you see, you interpret it from a past learned event. So for example, you know, if I was involved, okay, you know, and I don't want to, you know, if I was involved with somebody and I'm just dealing with past, then that means I'm, you know, projecting past experiences onto, say, my girlfriend, for example. You know, past girlfriend stuff, I'm projecting that onto my present girlfriend, okay? And so, you know, these are just past events, and that's basically what we do. We just project these past events based on past learnings because we've cut ourselves off from present learning. So that's what I mean by our assumptions create blind spots. And so it's really important, for example, to ask questions like, what is this for? What is the meaning of what I'm perceiving? You know, what's the lesson here? It creates the concept of having an open mind is the whole point with me getting on this soapbox right now. So
I have a comment about that.
Sure.
I think what we don't say when we answer that question, or at least the part of it that is missing for me, is that you, number one, don't have to agree with the person. Number two, you don't have to stand there and be beaten or whatever it is. You can make a decision for yourself whether or not that is behavior you can accept at the time. Because I think we want to be careful that there are people in this world, I know this isn't what Moj was saying, but there are people in this world that if they, even in this present day situation, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to get out of the way. You have to stand on your principle. Now, that doesn't mean I have to agree with you. It also does not mean that there won't be consequences for that. But you know, I think that's the part we don't say. when we're talking about these situations that we don't agree with. If you don't agree with it, that's okay, but you don't have to accept it. You don't have to be there. You don't have to hurt yourself. You don't have to keep your mouth closed about it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. I agree with you 100%. And you know, sometimes when you allow yourself to be angry over something, that's kind of hurting yourself. You know what I mean? That's just taking that whole, what you just not said, as far as you don't have to hurt yourself, you know, behind the situation. You know, so absolutely, I'm with you. So does anybody want any more 14? Because you know, it looks like we kind of like stripped it a little bit.
I think that Debbie wanted to say something, Steven.
Of course,
Oh,
Debbie, yeah.
So I think that she forgot she was trying.
I am so sorry, Debbie. You know, work with me. Claudia, I need you to continue to help monitor this, please.
Yeah, but I need you to give us a chance to talk.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I cannot monitor. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so does anybody else have any more comments? All right, Claudia, who's next for 15?
I think that me.
You? Okay, yep. Okay.
Okay. The ego makes no attempt to understand this, and it is clearly not understandable. But the ego does make every attempt to demonstrate it, and this it does constantly. Analyzing to attack, meaning the ego succeeds in overlooking it, and is left with a series of fragmented perceptions, which it unifies on behalf of itself. This then becomes the universe it perceives, and it is this universe which in turn becomes its demonstration of its own reality.
What do you get from that, Claudia?
What's going on? I'm kind of like a little confused with what so he confirmed all the things that you all were saying, but on the number 2, what is what ego is overlooking?
Okay, so
is the analyzing to attack, meaning the ego succeeds in overlooking it and is left with a series of fragmented perceptions which it unifies on behalf of itself.
Okay. Does anybody want to answer that?
Ziva, say.
Yes,
Ziva.
Unmute yourself, Ziva.
Yes, I did. Thank you. So I think this is really, really important, an important statement here. And the reason I'm saying it is because what I get from this is, you know, apart from analyzing to attack, which is the ego's job, you know, because it cannot understand the situation, but it can, you know, kind of analyze it and then make a meaning out of it that comes from its own way of interpreting the situation. And so what the ego does is first analyzes and cuts things into separate parts, makes it like fragmented, and then puts them together in a way that works for its own agenda.
To support it, right.
To support its own agenda, yeah. So it's very sad, but that's what it does.
Thank you, Sierra.
And I would like to add something to that. Did somebody else have to say? I was going to say, I'm going to invite everybody to imagine something. I want you all to use your imaginations. And so you're in the middle of an intersection, okay? At whatever city that you live in, all right? For me, it's in Houston, all right? And so you look to your left, you look to your right, you see things happening and stuff like that, but you have a very small idea, a very small view of what is going on from that intersection. Now, I want you to imagine yourself at the top of a tall building, because at the intersection is what the ego sees, and it ascribes judgment to those little things that you see happening at that little intersection, those little things that are happening in one small moment in space-time, okay? Now I want you to take yourself to the top of a very tall building, and I want you to look to the left again. I want you to look to the right. I want you to look around. You now have a much wider view, okay, a perspective and viewpoint, that a vantage point that allows you to see stuff coming from way up the road and way down the road. You can see all sorts of things that are happening from a more global scale, okay? That is, I'm just giving you a metaphor for how the ego can see, you know, when you're looking at these little small things and you're fragmental, you know, you're basically fragmenting things and looking at these little things, and then you want to ascribe a value to it. Well, you don't see the biggest, you don't see the whole picture. But here you are, you want to ascribe a value to this little one thing, to this one little thing that you see, and you want to say this is bad. And because this is bad, all this other stuff around here is bad too. And that's basically what this is saying. But you take yourself up to the top of a tall building, okay, you can see a lot more. You can see all sorts of stuff. And so that's just a metaphor to kind of describe sentence number 2, Z. But I just want to do that for a second. So.
Stephen, real quick, when Zeba was sharing there, I know a course teacher that says that the ego's thought system is perfectly logical, but completely insane.
Mm-hmm.
It does make sense, but it's founded on an insane premise that we're all separate. So everything comes in. It's perfectly logical, just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. It's perfectly logical because it can look at that if then else, and it can look at all of these different come to these logical conclusions about these little small things. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Claudia?
At the end.
Claudia,
what?
You were the last one to read. Did you were you done with that? I know you had a question about 2.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay, all right. So does anybody have anything else? Any comments? Any interpretations about paragraph 15?
And that's pretty much about the same. We are ready to.
We're kind of quiet here. Everybody
ready to keep reading?
Everybody ready to keep reading?
So Geoffrey's next.
Okay, Jeffrey, you're next.
All right. Do not underestimate the appeal of the ego's demonstrations to those who would listen. Selective perception chooses its witnesses carefully, and its witnesses are consistent. The case for insanity is strong to the insane, for reasoning ends at its beginning, and no thought system transcends its source. Yet reasoning without meaning cannot demonstrate anything, and those who are convinced by it must be deluded. Can the ego teach truly when it overlooks truth? can it perceive what it has denied? The ego looks straight at the Father and does not see him, for it has denied his Son. So now you're going to ask me what I think about that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this goes back to a statement that I really enjoyed you saying, and I can't remember whether it's the last paragraph or the one before, where you say that oftentimes when you run across in this apparent dream that we're in, people who hold a belief system that you don't believe in or don't agree with, you're not going to waste any time here trying to convince them of the unreality, what they believe, or the wrongness, or whatever it is. You'll enter the dream with them and seek to find that small spark, that small point of intersection where perhaps just by being a certain way, saying something, you might be able to bring some clarity to the situation. And you may or may not. That's not the option. It's being guided by Holy Spirit. This paragraph to me goes on again to even more deeply describe what the ego seeks to do because it thinks it's in charge. And so it's trying to make sense of the perceptions that are faulty and are spotty, and then trying to make sense of those incomplete snatches of what it thinks of as reality, and trying to make a story and a narrative and trying to make sense of it. And then that's what you act out of. That's what you react to other people. With Bill, with what you had said earlier about I'm never angry for the reason I think I'm angry. All of this is because we are this hodgepodge of things put together, which is the reason why, as you said, one of us said, you know, two people could go through with the same exact situation, have diametrically opposed experiences. Well, that's because none of us is operating from the same playbook. We're all an individual conglomeration of stuff. And I think, Maj, you were saying about in personal relationships, you know, if you become neutral to what we perceive as the bad things, you also become neutral to the things that we think are the bad things. And somewhere I think in the course, we talk about the happy dream, and when things seem to be going well and when things seem to be happy and we seem to do this, well, we like that. The ego uses that to keep us hooked in, keeps us there too. So for instance, today at Unity, Reverend Michael sent out, we're going to reopen on the 14th, and here's how it's going to work. Well, there's a real wonderful feeling that comes along with that, but I'm remembering from the past. I'm remembering from what the last service that I attended, when we gave each other a hug, when we were all singing together with all that. Now going forward, that's going to be totally different. I have to let go of that experience that I had, that I remembered so well about Unity going forward. It's going to be a very apparently different experience to my ego. And there was a part of my ego that said, well, yuck, I don't want to go back to that. I want to go back and be in the sanctuary and wear a mask and stay 6 feet from everybody and not be able to. My initial thing is going to be to give somebody a hug. It's going to be to go forward toward them. It's not going to be to put up my hand and say, stay away. And so there in the flip side, right there, in just 2 moments of reading that email from him, there was a happy dream. Oh gosh, it's going to come back and I'm going to get the feeling that I got before. But then there's a flip side of that happy dream, which is, wait a minute, no, look, read this email and read what it's saying. It's something totally different. So there's the ego trying to piece stuff together and not being peaceful. And the whole point for me of studying this course and this shifting this mindset is to achieve peace in every situation. It's not about figuring it out. It's not about analyzing. It's not about understanding it. That's beyond what I can do. But can I be peaceful with each piece of information that comes my way? I love your analogy of being in the intersection and looking around and making your value judgments and going on the top of the Transco Tower. Oh, that's dating me, isn't it? How about the Williams Tower? And being able to see all that stuff around there and understanding, wow, both of those are available. Which one do you want to choose?
Exactly. Thank you.
So that's what that paragraph meant to me.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Beautiful. Karen has a question. Yes, Karen, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I did. If we're in a duality, which we should not be in, because we should dispense with the ego and just connect with the spirit. And if the spirit is of God, then it should be, should it not, about light and love and truth. And in that reading, I don't have the book, but I thought there was a line in there that said that ego can overlook truth. And I'm finding it really interesting right now, because there were a lot of lies that were committed on the American people that is now coming to light. And it's not getting a lot of broadcast on mainstream media, but lies and untruths are now coming to light. And based on what you said earlier, Stephen, that we respond or we react to things according to that which is in us. Like, I'm finding myself really happy because some of the things that are slowly coming to light, that information was there in government documents and things like that, if you cared to read them. But now it's coming to light and I feel really happy about it. So that is something to do with the spirit, then, is it not? I mean, if you're connected to your spirit, should you not be a lover of truth and want truth to prevail?
That's a good question, Karen. I'm glad you asked that. The goal, Karen, is to be at peace regardless of what the world shows you, what the world demonstrates for you. That's the goal. Okay, but do we get to it? I mean, that's a process. That's just a process. So, the goal, Karen, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Is for all of us, in spite of any differences, in spite of the things that we hold to be true, in spite of our background, in spite of our different cultures and things like that, it's still to to follow the concept of being at peace within. Okay, so
I get that, but
right,
you
right.
made a comment what we hold to be true. So then, is not the truth? Like, whether you hold it to be true or not. Like, if I ask Bill, what color is your shirt, and it's white, isn't that the truth? It's a very definitive thing.
Truth and is subjective. What I've come to understand is truth is very subjective. It's very, very, very subjective. So your truth is an aggregate compilation of your beliefs. Okay, and that all consists of your truth, my truth, things like that. So in order to achieve harmony with so many different things, so many different belief systems that are in place with all of the different people that we have in the world, it's really it's really best not to ascribe anything to anyone. But at the same time, however it is that somebody believes, or if they believe that it's okay to ascribe beliefs onto somebody, then I have to honor that because that is still their truth. So, I'm not here to tell anybody how to think. I can tell you what the Course says, and I can tell you some of those teachings, but I'm not qualified to tell you, Karen, or anybody else how to think and be, okay? Because you are God.
I get that. I really do get that, Stephen, is that we come from different perspectives. We have different experiences. we have different backgrounds. So with regard to some things, truth can be a subjective thing. But then there is also, say, a universal truth in the sense of a chair is a chair is a chair. It's not a sofa. It's not a couch. It's a chair, you know, or Reverend Sheila's head covering is green with what looks like red. So there are fundamental truths that cannot be altered, and then there are subjective truths, and it is not our place to ascribe to anybody else, because we have to be empathetic, we have to be compassionate. We can, you know, it's not our place to judge other people because we don't walk in their shoes. But yet at the same time, if, say, somebody in the government says, oh, this is what happened, and it turned out to be a big con, and then there are definite lies, then there's a different kind of truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I being articulate here? Reverend Sheila's shaking her head. I think somebody understands. See?
You're very articulate. It's, you know, narrative. You know, narratives are narratives, and or the stories that we assign to certain things are the narrative, and so that still is based on, you know, we can write a narrative for anything. Every part of the Bible, you can write a different narrative for. Karen, you know, you can tell one person can take a verse in the Bible and they can have a narrative that it means this. It can be a very fearful narrative. And then another person can interpret a very loving narrative from it. But, you know, they're still narratives either way. They're both narratives. And so, you know, does anybody, you know, have an answer? Because my thing is,
wanted to talk, and Ziva.
I couldn't see. That's what I'm saying. If you can tell me.
There's Bill and Ziva.
Thank you.
I would like to say something too.
Yeah, Mose, you wanted to say something?
Is Ziba's? I thought Claudia said Ziba.
I thought you said Bill and then Ziba, Claudia.
I'm up. Okay. Yeah, there's a section in the Course of Miracles called the Laws of Chaos.
Okay.
And there's like, I think 4 of them, I forget. And the number one law of chaos, the mind, is that the truth is different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Our perceptions are different. The truth never changes, though. You know, I always clung to that, you know, that like says so much. That says so much that and it goes through, you know, that's how the egoic thought system believes things, that it talks about how you get into this, that the truth is different, you know, for everybody. It's the same. It never changes. And, you know, I used to have a spiritual teacher who always says, you know, you're free to believe anything you want, Bill, but the closer it is to what's true, the better your life's going to be. You know, and I believe the Course is trying to take us out of that, out of our misperceptions. I call them. You know, we're really, all we're doing in this journey is forgiving ourselves our misperceptions and trying to see what is real and true, like it said there, real error, you know, and you know you're doing okay with that when you have perfect peace, you know, because it says in Course, you know, one of my other favorite lines, it says, think not you understand anything until you pass the test of perfect peace. You know, and there's a lot of my Course days, I thought I knew something because I was so mad at somebody or this or that, and I was right, but but the Course brings you right back. It's like you can't be any more clear, you know, about that, you know. So I'll let you know if I ever actually get to do any of this stuff.
All right, Ziba. You said Ziba, Claudia?
Okay.
And
yes.
Okay.
And then Moja.
All right.
Okay, so what I wanted to say briefly is, I think there we can divide this, the truth here, into two parts. There's into two categories. There's the truth from the ego point of view, and there's the truth from the spirit point of view. Like, the ego doesn't say, I'm not after the truth. The ego believes that it is also looking for the truth and believes in the truth and loves the truth. So, and then there's a truth that belongs to God, to and that's the real truth that the spirit will show when it's time, the right time, according to the spirit. And I believe, coming from ego, I cannot help the time or the showing of the truth, that the spirit's truth. I better leave it to the spirit to bring it on when it's time, the right time. But I think that's it. Yeah.
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that, Ziba. And I'm going to talk about all those the different things, but I want to give Moj an opportunity to speak next. Moj, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, so my mind went to different places. Is it Karen who brought this up?
Yeah, it was Karen, yeah.
So my mind went to a couple different places. One thing was about truth. Every time I told my dad something was blue, he would say it's green. So I learned very early on not to argue even about something that I see, and I have like witnesses that thing is green. My dad would, I don't know, it was some kind of a color blind or color confusion. So I learned very early on, even though we agree on as a society that something is green, my dad is still gonna see it blue. I mean, that's how it is. So, and it's not worth it for me to prove anything to him or vice versa. For me, it's just like, okay, you see blue, that's totally cool. The other thing that came to my mind is, I'm from Iran. It's a country of revolution and all the other stuff. So with politics and who's telling the truth and all that, I kind of really gave up on that. We really don't know anything of anything. So it's just more like, unfortunately, it's their path and it's what they decide to do. And I, for one, cannot do anything about it as far as my life experience has been in that extent. All I can do is coming home to me and do what I need to do in this house here. And the third thing that came to my mind is I'm doing lessons every morning. I'm on lesson 36, and sometimes I go back and look at other lessons. I don't go forward, but I go back and look at other lessons. And one of the lessons that stuck out to me is lesson, for example, there's all those, like, I don't know what everything is for. There's all those good ones. But lesson 24 said, I do not perceive my own best interest. So like whatever, what it is that I want in my life, I don't even know what that is. I mean, I do not perceive my own best interest. And when you dig into it, the truth of it is that we don't even know what's good for us. We don't even know what's I won't even say what's the truth for us, because we don't know. We don't know what everything is for. And even if you're praying or wishing for some things, the Song of Prayer says, you just pray for what you've already got. You just receive and accept for what you really got. But today's lesson this morning, when I was reading it, it was really cool. It's like my holiness envelopes everything I see. And it says today's idea, extend the idea from yesterday, from the perceiver to the perceived. So that also hit some home for me. It's like we're talking about all how we perceive things, but it's even beyond how we perceive it. It's becoming a perceived from a perceiver, like becoming more absolute in trusting all these lessons, in trusting that I don't even know what things are for. Even if somebody's lying to me, that could be the best thing has ever happened. Even though like I get super, like that's one of my things is like, I don't appreciate lies, but to me is, I don't know what everything is. So even though that may get me at my ego level or whatnot, but it could be the best thing that is ever happening to me. So to become the perceived rather than the perceiver. So I wanted to share all those things that came to my mind as Karen was sharing.
All right. Well, we're about to close out with a prayer, and I'll have the Reverend Sheila Gautreaux pray us out. But I wanted to just say one really quick thing. Speak your truth. Always what your truth is. And I invite you to always speak your truth. And this is for Karen and anyone else. Always speak your truth. But I also invite you to be open to those that, do not resonate with your truth, regardless of whatever you actually have. And, because if you don't resonate with that, then that just means you have an attachment to people hearing things, what you're saying and believing in it. And that's the same thing that we're talking about as far as embracing how people choose to believe and live their life. That is their God-given right. And it doesn't matter if we have all of, this, these facts and stuff that we can line up and stuff like that, and we can prove and stuff like that. People still may not resonate with it. And peace lies in being okay with that. So yes, speak your truth. Because if it's your truth, it's within you to speak it. But understand that there's some people that will resonate with it, and there's some people that will not. And that's something that I have to face as a teacher. My mother has to face as a minister, things like that. Sometimes my mom has counseled people, and these people are just deeply entrenched and in their thing, and so she has to allow them to go through their thing. She has to allow them to go through their, and that's what love is, acceptance. Even if you do know, you're not intrusive. You're not trying to force anything on anyone. You're allowing. That's real love, and that's truth. If you want to know what an absolute truth is, that is an absolute truth. Love is an absolute truth. So with that, I just want y'all to think about it. Think about what I said. And I'm trying to unmute your mom, and I'm finding it difficult. I got you.
I'm unmuted.
Okay. All right. Would you mind praying us out, please?
Yes. Just before I do that, I just want to say one thing. Perhaps allowing someone to have what they perceive as the truth, even if it doesn't align with yours, may offer them an opportunity to grow in consciousness to another level and to see the world from a new and higher perspective. Perhaps the growth from what they believe is true now to what they perceive and see as they evolve will change their entire world. That's it. And I'll pray.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you.
So let us go within. Each to his or her inner sanctuary where we meet and greet the Lord of our being. And we offer our gratitude. Our gratitude for each of these beloved and powerful individuals who make up this powerful course group. who've come to bring us their perspectives, their ideas, and their love, lifting us to higher places, opening us to greater possibilities because of their sharing. And God, we are so grateful for this group. We are so grateful to Stephen for leading the group and Claudia for co-facilitating, and each of our brothers and sisters here with us each week. As we go forward in the midst of challenge right now on our planet, in our city, send the Holy Spirit before us to prepare the way for a rededication to the one mind, the one power, the one truth that is yours. That as we walk through these challenging times, we may bring a new light unto the world, for we are the light of the world. And allow us to go forward with the memory of that regardless of what we see, what we experience, we are the light of the world. And let us bring that light to everything now. Keep it shining, lift it high, honor the light within us, and let it be the light that perhaps opens a little spark for someone else. And to hold in our consciousness that regardless of what we feel about what is going on, it is all perfect. And we name this, we claim this, and we declare it to be so in the name and after the loving nature of our elder brother, way shower, and master teacher, Jesus the Christ. And so it is. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Our women.
Thank you.
Beautiful prayer. Thank you so much, everyone. Jeffrey, Debbie, Claudia, Ziba, Bill, Karen. I love you guys. So powerful, powerful teachers. You all are my teachers. I want you to understand that and appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Nighty night.
Good night, my darlings.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Love
night,
you.
Sheila.
Bye.
Reverend Sheila.